Welcome to Saturdays with Mark and Tony, featuring Mark Lowry and Tony Campolo. Now, here are Mark and Tony.
Let's take a question.
Wendy V. from Nashville, Tennessee.
Yay!
Well, we've all been very blessed by the wonderful talents that God has given to you three. But when God gives us gifts and talents, why does He not always give us the chance or opportunity to use them?
You want to?
Well, I think He does. I think sometimes people look at a platform like God has given me, or Bill Gaither gave me, really. I mean, God gave it through Bill Gaither. I mean, y'all would not know me had it not been for Bill Gaither. Let's face it. But God allowed me to be at the right place at the right time. But 8.5 years prior to that, I was sleeping on preachers' couches, eating their fried chicken, doing youth meetings, bar mitzvahs, anything that came along. Not really bar mitzvahs. I was never invited. But I mean, I was just anywhere I could be used, I was used. I was doing 200 concerts a year before Gaither ever came along.
Yeah.
But they were little tiny concerts. They weren't the big, mostly in independent Baptist churches. But so I think saying to be used, on what level? If you want the Gaither level, well, none of us are going to see that in our lifetime, probably. But if you want my level, may or may not. But if you want to be used, you grow where you're planted. If God plants you somewhere, I tell young people all the time, man, sing in the choir, sing at nursing homes, sing it anywhere you can. And if you're not willing to do that, you probably won't ever have a big platform. Because
you probably shouldn't have a big.
And the law of averages is, you may have a little bitty jackhammer, or you may have a nuclear-powered jackhammer. I think of Sandy Patty. She had a nuclear-powered jackhammer. And I've got a little bitty pickaxe. And there's this big dam. It don't matter how big your hammer is, it's who doesn't quit chipping. You keep chipping along, you can break that dam with a little pickaxe. You can do it quicker with a nuclear-powered jackhammer, but if you don't quit, you still gonna break that dam. And I got there just by, I wouldn't quit.
This has to be added, though. Don't you agree, Paul? That very often society will conspire to keep you from using your talents. Case in point. My mother undoubtedly was the best storyteller that ever I have encountered. Nobody could tell a story like my mother. She could take the most simple tale and make it so dramatic and so exciting. In the last years of her life, she lived to be in her 80s, they hired her to a Lutheran home just because she could get these old people together and tell them stories and keep them at the edge of their seats. She wanted, in the worst way, to be a preacher. But she lived at a time when society wouldn't let women be preachers. And so society conspired to keep her from using this incredible talent, which, if it had been used, would have glorified God, and I'm sure would have won a lot of people to Jesus.
Wow. Well, you picked up the gift pretty good.
Not as well as my mother.
I would also say that we live in a celebrity-driven culture, and so we tend to measure worth by fame. And yet, Jesus told the story about, the Pharisee who made display of his faith, and the sinner who said, "God, be merciful to me, a sinner." That person had more equity with God than the one that had all the display and attention.
And Paul, in that great passage in the 11th chapter of 1 Corinthians, says, those parts of the body that nobody sees, the less honorable parts, in the end, are more important. I mean, what we see is not necessarily the most important part of the body. It's what is not seen and what is not given much honor.
Somebody's got to be the heel.
Yep. Why look at me when you say that?
Everybody wants to be the mouth on the body of Christ. Without a heel, you can't walk very far. You got to be heel, and there's some toes and fingers and other parts we won't even mention.
Please don't.
Somebody's got to be the bowels.
Oh.
Maybe. Who knows? The body of Christ.
Yeah.
My body needs my bowels.
Yes.
Oh, well, not that really matters.
Yeah, let's move on.
All right, next question. Let's have another question. Anybody else got a question from the audience? Send them
There
up
it goes.
Now, here's one of these fellows from Liberty University.
Right, I'm Ethan Waters. I'm from Atlanta. Just got, I guess, trying to change subjects a little bit about immigration. I know it's a big deal, and I know the elections are coming up next year, and that's always a really big issue. I just didn't know what y'all thought. Maybe I'd put a Christian perspective on it.
Immigration, Tony. Take it away.
Okay.
Well, first of all, we're all immigrants.
Yep, that's
Every
right.
one of us, right?
Unless
Whether-
we have some Native Americans here.
Right.
Yep.
Or-
No, so we're an immigrant nation.
Right.
I always like when I forgot who it was that spoke to the Daughters of the American Revolution, who said, Eleanor Roosevelt, that's it, who said to this, and it was at the time that the immigrants were coming over in boat. Remember, the boat people from Asia were coming in, and the Daughters of the American Revolution were very uptight about this. And her opening line was, "It's good to be with all of you fellow boat people and immigrants." Oh. Because that's what we all are. We're all here as immigrants. And that's the first thing. We need to ask a very important question. And there are 12 million illegal immigrants in America today. 12 million. Why did they come in illegally? My father came to this country. He came in legally. He likes to brag about the fact that he came in with only the shirt on his back, and America gave him a job, and America gave him an opportunity, and he's able to raise a family, and that's the greatness of this country. And that was the greatness of the country.
And back then, how did you become an American citizen?
You just went down to the city hall and said, "I want to become an American citizen. Where do I fill out the papers?" My father didn't hire a lawyer. He didn't have to do any of that stuff. Right. He went down to the customs building, filled out the papers, applied for citizenship, and that was it.
Could you just show up at Ellis Island?
Well, that's what he did. He just showed up at Ellis Island. Okay. They checked him out on the island. They said, "You're okay. You can go in." Wow. Now, here's the thing. If you want to become a legal entrant into this country, here's the qualifications. You have to come here, and you can't have a job until you have a green card. You probably knew that. Right. It will take at least 3 years to get a green card, which means you have to come and live in this country 3 years without any means of economic support. No means of income for 3 years. You can't work for 3 years.
Legal income.
Legal income, right. You can't work for 3 years. Secondly, you're going to have to hire a lawyer. It will cost you, as a minimum, $3,000 to get a lawyer to do this paperwork. So it's going to cost $3,000, and if you're going to have to live here for 3 years without any employment, only those who are economically viable will be able to come to this country. Poor people like my father would not have been able to make it in these days. So that has to be faced up to. Secondly, to become a citizen is going to take about 10 years and somewhere around $10,000. So what we're really saying is, if you want to be an immigrant that's legal, you have to be economically well-heeled. And that's why people are sneaking across the border illegally. What I contend is that we need a very high wall. That is, every person that comes into this country, we should know who that person is. We have a background check on that person. We must make sure that we're not bringing in criminals, terrorists, drug pushers. We have to make sure that the people that are coming into this country are going to be the kind of people that we want to have as citizens of this country. The wall should be high, keeping out those who are detriments to the well-being of the American society. The wall should be high, but the door should be wide. You know the words under the Statue of Liberty. Give us your poor, your wretched, what is it? Wretched,
disenfranchised,
your poor.
Yeah. Now we're saying
masses.
Yeah, huddled masses. Now, as long as you got about $50,000, then you can come. We got to change. We got to get back to where this country really was on immigrants. So that's the first thing. We need to have a high wall, making sure that the undesirable who would destroy this country are not brought in.
Is there enough room for all these people?
The truth is that there are 12 million immigrants in this country right now. Please don't tell me that they're taking jobs away from Americans.
They're taking jobs
They
away
are
from
not.
Americans.
They are not doing it.
I just want to tell you that.
Yeah, well, you're wrong. Is that what you just said?
That's what I just said.
Shame on you.
Tell me why they're not.
Well, first of all, the unemployment rate presently is down to 4.5%.
So Bush has done a great job.
On the economy, he's done a very, very good job.
Saturdays with Mark and Tony is a presentation of marklowry.com.